Welcome to Shop Talk, where we chat about what's going on in our businesses right now, what's exciting, and what's challenging. When something exciting happens, we want to ensure we're taking a moment to recognize and celebrate our successes. And when things are challenging, talking through them to gather each other's perspective is often so insightful.
And if you're going through any of these challenges at the moment as well, we hope that by sharing openly, you know you're not alone and that as business owners, we're all navigating this crazy journey together. So Shop Talk has been on pause for a couple of months, Whitney. I think we took a break because we felt like people were probably sick of our voices together because we did like 5 episodes for client experience and we were just chatting. We were sick of each other. We were like, okay, I need a pause. No, but we had like all of those episodes back to back to back that were just Whitney and I. And so we took a break, a pause. And then the last month I've been out of the country.
You've been gallivanting around Portugal.
Gallivanting. That is a great, descriptor for it. So I was on my like mini sabbatical-ish trip, I guess, is that what I call it? So I guess we'll start there because that's my kind of
I have a question for you about
Yeah.
this, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you shared in our Advisor Accelerator that this was like a vision of yours that you kind of mapped out. I don't know how many years ago. I don't know how long it took you to work toward this, but I know you also did the same last summer. So this is the second
Iteration.
sabbatical
Yeah.
situation you've taken. And as I was watching your Instagram stories, thank you for posting.
You're welcome.
And you were working a little bit while you were away. And I know that it's near impossible to like 100% step away. I also could not 100% step away during my maternity leave, even though it was drastically reduced. I was wondering, watching you on your fabulous trip, is what you experienced this summer what you envisioned a certain number of years ago? Or is it more than you envisioned? Is it still not quite to what like the ideal situation is? Like, how is this going for you?
That's a great question because I think it's important to be like, okay, was this it? Like, is this, have I achieved the goal?
I did the thing.
Or is it like, was that a dumb goal or am I not doing it right? All the things, right?
You're not sabbaticaling, right?
I'm not sabbatical. I would ask myself that too. Like, this is my brain. Are you sabbaticaling right? So I think overall, it's a resounding yes from a life perspective. Like I can see like the relationship for my family and like my husband and I and like the time we get with our kids and everything that brings. Just not only obviously we're always going to vacation together. Like travel is all of our priorities in life and what we love and what we prioritize. But like what a month brings and what a like true kind of not really working while you are also trying to vacation brings for my marriage and for my family. That what I get from that, I think I'm doing this right. And I need to do more of it somehow to get that benefit and to see that kind of like I didn't even know that it was going to feel so much like that. Like, wow, it's really cool. Especially, we both have young kids, but to be, and listen, because you're never going to hear me say, I want to be around my kids 24/7. So this could not be like a year-long thing. But for this short amount of time, it's really special to just have like uninterrupted, like focus, playing, like enjoying each other, seeing their like little personalities just bloom, like that you don't get to see when you're with them for just like a few hours a day.
Right.
That's really cool. And you're just like, when you're out of America, I think life is always different outside of America. I think we know that, but it just is a different pace. And we kind of settle into that being able to be gone for so long. So we communicate better. I'm talking about my husband and I, we like each other more. We actually have real conversations that we put off when we're at home. So all of those, absolutely yes. And the thing that's on me is if I'm saying sabbatical, that does mean stopping work. And I still am like learning and figuring out how much work can I stop? Where's the like tipping point of it doing? Listen, there's always going to there's the pros and cons to way of it, right? Like I'm not pushing the gas on business and driving driving things forward if I'm also sitting on a beach in Portugal drinking my vino verde. So I know that.
How amazing is that wine?
I'm like, what are we doing here? This is like No
Why
need
don't
for
we have
water.
green
I don't
wine
know.
everywhere?
I don't know because there's nothing better on a hot day. Like I'm just like
I
sip,
know.
sip, sip. This is so amazing.
I know. It's really incredible.
I have to be okay with that, like that payoff. And I think, this is probably true for all of us as well. The better my business is doing that year, probably I'll be more okay with it. So I think the slight thing this year for me is, which we've talked about on Shop Talk before, like my goals were, I'm not quite there, like revenue wise and whatnot. And so that's in the back of my head. Like, should I just not take so much time off? And should I not like do XYZ because I'm good, but I'm not great?
Mhm.
And this is, but priority wise, it's a win for me, for like what I value. And I got to remember that I do value this, even though I also really like this. This is also important to me. But hey, you said this is a value. You said this is a priority. You got to put your money where your mouth is, literally, and make it that way. So it's a win. I love it.
Yeah. No, I ask because we tried this last summer, and I would say, from me personally, I failed because I was unrealistic about being able to step away from work. And I just think that like our work is so unpredictable in ways of like we can do all the things that we need to do to get things done, but there are outstanding things that we can't do until a client responds. And if they decide to respond after our sabbatical begins and we're in Paris, we can't real necessarily say I'll see you in a month, right? So there's just like little like, and I think that this happens with every fan, with every vacation. It's just it's enhanced when you're trying to leave for more than like a week, right? It's
Mhm,
because
mhm,
a lot of things you could say I'll see you next week, but you can't say see you next month necessarily. And so I think that that's where I really failed, is just like I thought that things would be done, and then it just trickled into our time away far more than I expected.
mhm.
And I also learned that my husband and we both work from home. And so that means we can both work abroad. And it just, we need that line in the sand. Either we are on vacation or we are working, because we both enjoy our work enough that we can get sucked into when we think we're just going to do something quick in the morning before we go out for the day. And like before we know it, it's been 3 hours.
Yes,
Right.
that is
And
that is the thing you have to like train yourself. Like if that computer opens, you're pretty much screwing yourself.
yeah, you are. And that happened too many times when we were in Paris. And it was like, this isn't why we're in Paris, right?
Mhm,
And so we both kind of agreed that next time we would actually prefer to just be like on a 2 week vacation where everyone knows we are on vacation. And because we don't exist in that gray area very well, because
yeah.
we don't hold ourselves accountable,
Accountable.
basically.
Yes, that's a good point, and that's something good to know about yourself. And you know what was interesting is the way I set it up this time, which was a little bit different from last time, because I think last time I tried to just be, it was a little all over the place. But this time it was like the first 10 days, like unless the house is burning down, I don't exist. Like, that's what I told my team, like, literally. And, like, I think you'll also find now that you have been with, like, the same people on your team and you're trusting them more and they're doing them more, that
Yeah.
idea that, like, this isn't done, but somebody else can do it and somebody else can handle it
Yes.
is gonna be so
Yes.
much better when you
For sure.
attempt again. So, at this point, I was like, the first 10 days I don't exist unless the house is burning down. Then the middle portion was where I was like, let me just not make sure things come to a standstill and be available for questions. And then the last chunk was like, let me go back into my like woosah. I'm a one with the countryside.
And did that work for you to like turn it on and off for those chunks of time? Because I've thought about this as well and I just haven't tried it yet.
It did. It did. I think that like I knew, there was nothing. I cleared my plate enough to know that like the next 10 days, nothing's really needed of me that somebody else can't handle. And I'm going to stir the pot a little bit in the middle of the trip. And I stirred it enough and got things going. But like, okay, I'm going to be back in another week and a half. So, like, what was so critical that couldn't wait till then if it needed me? But nothing really did. And so it kind of works because I felt like that, like, off, off, off time was truly off. Like it was, I literally
Yeah.
didn't charge my computer. In that middle time, it was, and this obviously it worked for the time zones. And to your point, I told myself that like there is no reason to open my computer in the morning. Like if I was at home, I'm in California, like that's 4 p.m. here. So
Yeah.
if I enjoy my whole day and wait till nap time, because I have a toddler, then when I open my computer then at like 2 or 3, I'm not missing anything that I would have missed at home. And then I work for those few hours until dinner time. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like I missed anything that my family wanted to do that day. Or,
Sure, sure.
you
Yeah.
know, that was kind of like the tricking my part again, because I'm a
Yeah.
very much wake up and check my email in the bed type of
Yeah.
person. And once it's in your
Yeah.
brain, like you can't get it out.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
can just do this
can't.
real quick. Well, I can just respond. And then if I respond, then they can respond to me. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's where you
Yeah.
lose
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. So that is another thing that I learned from last summer is that we didn't the whole trip was 5 weeks long, and everything was like, "Well, I'll just do a little thing here and there," and it became like a gray cloud over the trip. Like, we had a fabulous time, I don't wanna diminish, but it was, like, not as relaxing as I thought, and I did say that next time we do this, either it's a 2-week vacation and nothing more, or if we really want the extended time, which I always feel like I want, I miss being an expat. I miss, like,
Mhm.
being in places longer and just slowing down and not, like, go, go, go all the time. Then I was like, we start with vacation, then we go somewhere, we get a house, we buy groceries, and we have a little like part time work situation. And then we end with vacation before we come home, which is exactly what you just described.
Exactly. That's
So I'm
that's
happy that
exactly what we
that
did.
like
Yeah,
worked for you.
hotel at the beginning and the end, and then a house rental in the middle where, there was an actual desk. I had a
Yep.
room where I could shut the door and like do video calls, all the things. And
Cool.
again, had to make my bed and shop for groceries. So it didn't feel like the same vacation feel either, but
Yeah.
I think we kind of enjoyed the same thing. I enjoy that too about traveling, being somewhere else. My husband now is like, and then maybe we buy a place in Lisbon. And I'm like, okay, like everywhere we go,
I
you
mean,
don't want to move.
that's pretty much every trip we go on. My
I know,
husband and I are like, so how much is real estate
right?
here?
Looking it up, saving, yeah. When you walk by those like buildings where they have like the
Oh,
listing
we
going
always
up,
look.
you
We
gotta
always
stop
look.
and babe, like think of what we pay. And I'm like, I get it. We actually could afford this and be not doing too shabby. So
Yeah. So, can I circle back to when you said kind of in the middle of your trip, you stirred the pot?
yes.
What does that mean for you? What did you do during that
So for
time?
me, stirring the pot, and I think we kind of also have a similar workflow in this that like I realize I'm still the driver of business in my business, meaning that most of the time I'm going to do consultations and decide the direction of the trip. And so what I did for those 2.5 weeks was like open my calendar for a few days a week, take in the consultations that just like had to wait for me or just didn't feel like anybody else could talk to them, and do the consultations, decide the direction of the trip and get it started. Now I don't have to do anything after that, but I feel like if I did that, then that's number one, not delaying and or maybe missing out on them working with us, and consistent revenue and income, whatever, from planning fees, et cetera, that kind of
Yep,
like we
yep,
count on in our business. And so I feel better, especially like I said, I'm not up this year like just blowing it through the roof. I felt better being able to kind of like drive a little bit of that business and not fully take that away for the month.
cool, perfect, amazing. So, aside from spending a month in Portugal, which is honestly fabulous, I love Portugal so much. What else is exciting? What's going on?
Well, I think, this is kind of like the cool, like, and this also happened while I was in Portugal. And I think I had messaged you like while I was there because I was like, hey, I have this potential, like, I have this inquiry and this is like their budget, which was amazing. And but it was like a larger group, but one person was paying for it. And I think I messaged you to be like, what should I charge for the planning fee? Because like you have your like set way of doing things, but then something comes in that's like a little bit like not the same, and you're just like, I don't want to charge too little because I want them to like value the work and the time we're putting in, but I don't want to charge too much and scare them away because
Yep,
this is
yep,
going to be a great commission check regardless, and I don't want to lose
yeah,
it, but I want to like be sure, like I
yeah.
needed a little more confidence, but I didn't know where I was landing with it, so I was just like, what should I do?
How did you end up approaching that?
Yeah, so I think we went back and forth, and I think so just for like it was a small group trip, but it was one person paying and it wasn't a family. And so there was 15 people total, but like four families. So,
Okay.
four adult or four sets of couples and then their
Yeah.
kids. And
Okay.
then one and this guy has a business and he was like just bringing his like top producers or whatever in his business.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and they wanted to go to Scotland and he was paying for the whole thing. And so I only had to deal with one person. It was one person paying for everything. I wasn't doing flights. They were all going to do their own flights. But I was like, but it's 15 people. Normally I would charge this, but then like I was just all over the place. What I decided to do was I went with at first I was like my high end was one thing and my low end was anything and I kind of just met in the middle.
How
So
do you normally charge? Do you
I
charge per
normally
person, per
charge
day, a flat fee?
a flat fee if it's like a couple or a family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If it's like more than that, like a small group, I go to like 100 and like a per person per day, $150 per person per day.
Okay,
But then
okay,
less if they're not needing flights. I kind of just make it up on the fly sometimes as well.
okay.
I maybe need to have this a little bit more dialed in. So anyway, I decided to say it was going to be $1,200 a planning fee
Yep,
and and explain it in a way normally it would be this, but since it's only one person, this is one
yep.
group, like this is the discount that I'm providing. And they didn't bat an eye, so yes, of course it probably could have been higher, but I was happy. I felt like I would be happy with that,
Mhm.
and then also I could make sure that I was working on a trip that I really wanted to work on. So the exciting thing about that was this all happened literally like while I was in Portugal. Number one, this client found me like in their form. I follow you on Instagram, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, I never get clients from Instagram. And I'm not saying this is where I like hang my hat and say all my clients come from Instagram. I'm not that type of advisor. But I just thought it was super cool that, like, for however many years, I don't even like it's not like she's in my DMs. I didn't know her, recognize her name, but whatever I was putting out, and whatever she was consuming over the years, or for however long she's been following me,
Yeah,
gave her like confidence to reach out for her trip that her husband was planning, and trust me enough to give me the business. And so that all happened while I was in Portugal. We, reached out to the DMC. We got the, proposal. And then when I got home was when kind of like we were finalizing everything and all that stuff. So I just was like, this is super cool because business is still happening while I'm doing the sabbatical. That's the first cool thing. The
yeah.
second cool thing is that, like, yeah, like sometimes it is cool when it's not just like these obvious ways that we get business, right? Like this person was a referral, or this person I
Mhm.
go to church with, or this person, you like, no, you're like, I don't know, whatever it is, she was attracted to me, and I'm like, well, who are your friends? So I feel like, I feel
We
like
know you have them.
you have them, right? Ah,
Amazing. Well, super exciting. I'm glad that went through because sometimes when a really big inquiry comes in with like a really solid budget, sometimes I get a little bit nervous of like, is this going to go through? Like, I don't want to get excited until it's like
it
booked and
actually
confirmed.
happens. Yes.
Yeah, which is the same for any trip. I just think like those feelings feel bigger for the big budgets because they're big commissions. So,
Exactly. And you start like, wow, this makes a difference for this month, or like whenever it is I get paid for
oh,
this trip. Like,
huge.
this is a lot larger than like my normal trip budget. And
Yeah.
yes, of course, I know like some people, this is how they built their business. And I wish like my business was headed in that direction. Like, who knows? But I am still not, that's not my norm. And so when
Hmm.
it happens, yes, I don't have that like, yeah, I got like, I'm confident and comfortable with the business that I've built, but that is a little bit of a different echelon. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
I'm still kind of like, please,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
please, please.
Yeah. So we before we started recording, we were talking about like this trip is really, really big, but then the end itinerary didn't actually feel like over the top necessarily like special. And so it's interesting when you have a really big budget for a couple or for a family of like four, for example, versus when you have a really big budget for 13 or 15 people, however many it was. It actually, the way that turns out, it really all comes down to like the number of days and the number of people because
Yeah.
if it's one room versus how many did you have? 10, 12 rooms at every place? Like however many rooms you had? You
Right,
have 4
yeah.
families, so
3,
8 rooms
6,
maybe?
7. It was 7 rooms. One of them only had a 3-year-old, and so they could be stay in one
So
room. So it's
7
basically
rooms at
7
every
rooms in each
hotel
location, which, yeah,
is a
it
lot of
adds.
money. I
It's
mean,
exactly.
that's very easily 3 to 5,000 per day in hotels alone.
Oh, yeah, easy, yeah. And then you
So,
wanna add, like, cool experiences and obviously private experiences, but then, like, the vehicles that are gonna fit that many people, those aren't
you
cheap.
need multiple
And
yep.
yeah, so it just kind of adds up, and it's not just like, "Oh, and now here's your, private, I don't even know, like,
Your private helicopter taking you into
helicopter."
your
Yeah,
private castle, who's
yeah.
then gonna whisk you off on your private yacht.
It doesn't work that way as easily. And so it's interesting. Yeah, I think sometimes we see like our top trips, from a spend point of view. And there's so many factors, you're right, that influence that. Like I had a trip recently and it's just like they spent so much damn money in flights. Like
Ugh.
it was so
Yeah.
dumb because they were like getting married in Greece and then they wanted to go to Australia. And then from Australia, they wanted to go to freaking or the Maldives to Australia. They're doing like literally the Maldives and Australia. What freaking sense does that make? I have no idea. And I tried to talk them out of it, so don't even come for me. But like, it was that like they're getting married in Greece. They live in it freaking Atlanta, and they're doing the Maldives and Australia for like the dumbest reasons, right? Like you should see the Australia part of their itinerary. It's so freaking lame because I'm like, and do you want to do this? Like nothing cool that they even wanted to do that. I don't know why Australia was so. And I tried to talk them out of it, and I gave them other ideas.
Mhm.
They were like stuck on it. And then the flights were so damn important to them. But like number one, these destinations aren't even connected in any like logical manner.
Right, right.
Then they were like also super particular about, oh, but we want to do the Q seats on Qatar and we want to, and it was just like, and so from what they spent and like the trip that I got to
What
present
they
to them,
got?
that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
just so frustrating. I'm like, I could have spent this money so much better.
In such a better way. Yeah, no, I totally understand. I have I have a couple clients who are the way that you're describing, and these are big groups. So I don't have any couples who are spending 100 grand on a trip. I have couples who might spend 40 or 50, and those are really awesome trips. But then I have multi-gen families who are spending 80 to 100. But again, it's a lot of people. So the final itinerary isn't like out of this world incredible. It's what you would get for 20 grand if it were a couple, but it just happens to be a lot of humans
And one
needing a
person
lot of
paying for
beds.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But cool. Well, I'm really happy that that went through and that's
Yeah. More
booked,
of that,
solid,
please.
add it to the spreadsheet.
Add it to the spreadsheet.
Amazing.
Up that like per trip average.
Yes, exactly. We need a little bit of that.
So what about you? What's been exciting since the last time we've had Shop Talk, really? Because I'm here to hear all of it to make sure I'm up to date on all that is undiscovered sunsets. Because you are back from maternity leave now, officially, correct?
Officially back from maternity leave. I have a
Okay,
very chunky, cute 4-month-old. He's
so cute, so
fabulous.
chunky. The
Yep.
cheeks are like on point.
Oh, the cheeks and the thighs.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. And so, right at the end of my maternity leave, I started the process to hire a second employee because I knew that that was going to take some time. And I kind of wanted that person to be onboarding at the same time that I was coming back, as opposed to
Mm.
like starting the hiring process when I was coming back, because, it just kind of takes a few weeks to go through everything. So she started 2 weeks ago and everything is going really well. Tori is helping me. So my first employee is helping me a lot with the onboarding of the second employee. So that also is just a game changer that it's happening, but it's not me doing it.
Yes.
It's really
Yes.
cool.
The best.
And the SOPs are in line. Tori knows all of the things. So it's actually Tori giving some of her current work off to Erin. And so things are being taken off of Tori's plate. All the SOPs and the tutorial videos are there for Erin to review on her own. Like it's all set up, it's all there. And so coming back from maternity leave, I had a pretty substantial list of people who were ready to plan, and they were waiting for me to come back. But honestly, even without maternity leave, I would have said we need to wait till August or September because planning 2025 in June is just too early, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's most of what people were asking me for. And so I came back and sent like the first wave of emails of like, I'm back. Here's my calendar. Let's start it. And I had like I felt like Brianna for a week with the number of discovery calls that I had. I was like, is this Brianna's existence every week? Because dear God.
Oh, shoot.
So
Oh.
I survived 1 week, but I don't think I can do that every week. But it was just this really, really, really incredible feeling that I was having all these calls. And the vast majority of my day over the last few weeks has been communication with clients and communication with partners.
Mhm.
And just actually designing the trip and nurturing those relationships and catching up with them and talking about their next trip and welcoming people home and getting people ready to go. But like once we get to all the payment, the passports and the trip protection and all that stuff and all the restaurants and everything, Tori and Aaron are all
Yeah.
over it. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing. And so I just am like living up here and just like I feel like I'm up in the clouds having the most amazing time because I'm just getting to do what not only what I love to do most, but what I feel is really like what I'm best at is just the
100%.
high level design of the itinerary, knowing where they should go, what logistics are going to work, which partner to work best with, have we considered this, what budget is realistic? Like that's where I thrive. And the last few weeks, I've gotten to spend a lot more time in that zone. And then I received an invitation in the last few weeks, all as well. Like this is all kind of happening at once from a client who works in marketing for one of the luxury car dealerships here in Des Moines. And they're having like their new car show that they have on an annual basis. And this year just happens to be a travel theme. And he's
Oh,
inviting me to participate. And so I haven't done events like this in like
yeah.
a real long time. So I'm like, I'm open to it. Like, this is my local community. He's a client. He's a great client. Like, this is, a good match of like clientele who are basically buying like Lexus, Cadillac, Land Rovers. These are the cars that they're selling. Like, this is kind of a match. I mean, we can get into some nitty gritty of maybe why some aren't, but in general, high level, it's a match of clientele. But I was like, what are we looking for here in terms of my participation? Like, am I planning a trip for free? Am I giving away my services? Like, I just didn't really know what to expect in terms of what they were looking for. So I actually went into an in-person meeting, took a shower,
Wow.
put on a dress. Like, what? That was
Wow. Who are
crazy.
you?
And they're actually envisioning like investing in a grand